We're going to look at the 3 ways that sidereal and tropical astrology are different wheels. I'm Janan Derso. Let's get into it. There are 3 main differences. So I'm going to just give you a really broad overview first with these 2 wheels. So the first is, when is the start date of the wheel? Is it when you see Aries? Is Aries even first? The second is the size of the constellation. Are they all the same size? And the third is, how many constellations are included? Are there 12, 13, or even 14? So the first piece, the start date. So tropical and most sidereal wheels start with the constellation Aries in the zodiac. However, the date is different in the 2 wheels. The tropical wheel starts when the sun was in Aries 2,000 years ago. The sidereal wheel starts when the sun is in the constellation Aries today, or whenever you're looking at the wheel, in 1970, in 2032. So in the version of the sidereal wheel that I use, which I call the present sky wheel, I account for the constellation Cetus as the start of the zodiac series, but it also starts at the same time. So we'll do more on that in another video. The main difference is the start date. So let's look at why. So in the astrological or tropical calendar, its reference is the position of the sun with the Earth's horizon. This is how the seasons are calculated, right? From the position of the sun. Its start date is based on spring equinox. You could call it a seasonal wheel. Aries begins fixed at 0 degrees. That means it never, ever, ever moves. No matter what else is happening, it's not going to move. And so they have equinox as a 3-day window from March 19th, 20th, or 21st, right? You see it shift around in the calendar, but it is always going to be a 0 degrees Aries. Despite what else is moving in this wheel, Aries stays still. The sidereal wheel, which is what astronomers, Vedic astrologers, biodynamic farmers use, it's established based on the stars as the background in reference to the position of the sun. So Aries begins when the sun is in the constellation of Aries. So it's going to shift slightly every year, but it's always around April 18th, which is about a whole month later. And this will continue to shift the more we move away from that time when they were consistent. So why is this? Well, it's called precession. So once upon a time, there was only one wheel. Both astrology wheels were consistent. We didn't need 2 wheels. But over the course of time, the tropical, or this Western wheel, has fallen out of sync with the visible sky, 1 degree every 71 years. This is what's called precession. Things are moving. This movement has added up over 2,000 plus years to be a full constellation most of the time. So here's your math. 2025 divided by 71 is 28.52. And if you're looking at a sign being 30 degrees, that's how you can determine the 2 wheels are about a sign off. So instead of Aries, it becomes Pisces, right? So just to recap, something that can seem really confusing, tropical astrology has a fixed start point with the seasons. In this case, spring equinox is the beginning of Aries when the sun crosses the equator, seasonal based, from the viewpoint of the sun. Sidereal astrology is focused on the constellations movement and therefore begins when the sun is in Aries. So your constellation first, then whatever's in the constellation is what you pay attention to. So this movement sets the spring equinox when the constellation is actually in Pisces. This will continue to change. Second difference is the size of the constellations. In tropical astrology, as well as Vedic astrology, the signs are all 30 degrees. It's very straightforward. It's how they're cut and slicing the pie, right? In sidereal, the sign sizes are measured by the actual stars that make up the constellation. So again, this is astronomical constellation size. It's going to depend on the viewer, but there's a general consensus, and they only will differ by a few days, a few degrees, if there is a difference. So this is a split between sidereal, like with Vedic, and then the rest of sidereal, okay? So this picture is going to give you a nice visual representation where on the outside, you can see that the colors representing the elements They're all different sizes. On the inside wheel, they're all the same size. But the constellations are not all the same size. They're not all 30 degrees. But in Western astrology and Vedic astrology, that is how they are portrayed, as equal sizes, 30-degree windows. It makes it nice and easy. 12, 30, it's a numbers game, trust me. In the sidereal wheel, the present sky wheel, each constellation is not 30 degrees. So for example, the constellation of Virgo, it's 46 degrees. It's much larger than the constellation of Libra, for example. Where a constellation starts and stops has to do with the stars that are connected to it. Sidereal and present sky wheels honor that each constellation is a different size of varying degrees. It's about when the sun, the moon, the earth, the planet passes through the constellation. They aren't there for equal amounts of time or 30 degrees. So the inside wheel, you can see they're all the same size. The outside wheel, they are different sizes depending upon their actual size. So one is going to be different than the other. Okay, the next difference, the third difference, is the number of constellations. So tropical and sidereal wheels, including the biodynamic almanac, have 12 main constellations. It's 12 main zodiac signs. Tropical really likes to make this distinguish word-wise that zodiac is somehow different from a constellation. That's one of the things you'll see in posts where tropical astrologers like to stand up for their system as being accurate. They're like, we're not talking about the constellation, we're talking about the zodiac sign. Well, how are they different? Because the zodiac sign is based on the constellation. They're the same thing. So the definition of a zodiac sign is that it crosses the ecliptic or the path of the sun. So now you're going to see a next difference. The true sky wheel, it's called, which is still sidereal astrology, but it's called the true sky wheel because it adds Ophiuchus. It's a 13th sign. 13 is a prime number, and it's not an easy number to work with. So for the Babylonian calendars, that's when it was deleted. They really preferred a 12-month calendar. It's a composite number, easily split into 4 seasons, which was just more suitable for their purposes. We don't really need to get into the rabbit hole of all the other reasons. The present sky wheel adds both Ophiuchus and Cetus. And now Cetus gets extremely close to the ecliptic. So does Aries, to be honest. It doesn't cross, but we're still including it. So if we're going to play the game of how close can you get to the ecliptic and count it, that's another video. The reason why I include Cetus is because we need this 14th constellation to re-imprint humanity with love and oneness. That's what's missing, folks. Let's add it in. This difference really distinguishes sidereal and true and present sky. The dynamic sidereal system recognizes 12 signs. True sky has 13. I'm also suggesting the removal of this 13th sign was part of the eradication of knowledge and keeping people from their unique blueprint. And that's why I use 14 signs in present sky patternology, because I believe the pattern of Cetus symbolizes an essential message for modern times. Even though it doesn't cross the ecliptic, it's valuable to include. And 2,000 years ago, saints walked the earth sharing prophecies, and perhaps we didn't need the light pattern of Ophiuchus and Cetus then, but we do now. So you get to choose, right? The beauty and simplicity of the visible sky is that you can look up with your naked eye or a telescope if you're adept at astronomy, and you can use a sky app to determine where the sun, moon, and stars are at any given time. So I invite you to take this breath in. The expansion of who you are, where you are, here and now, all of the universe can be used to wake us up or as idols. The intention of how to use the stars is critical. I use them as patterns and symbols, awakening you to your life purpose. Your life and the stars can dissolve myths, roles, and stories placed upon you, and it can offer forgiveness to let down the offense-defense game and restore peace and purpose. Don't take my word for it. Definitely go out, question reality, and please don't let your astrology chart be a perspective that you're going to hold true. But before you leave behind your tropical or Western astrology chart as your karmic past, you can reflect on it. How do these karmic patterns hold you into stories about yourself? What would you like to move out of? And if you want to do a quick reading with me or a full-length one, I'll show you more about your evolved chart, how the visible sky can offer you presence and freedom to move forward in your life. You're invited to move into it where the present moment always brings miracles to replace those old stories. This is the vertical time of the present. And if you want to switch to present sky astrology, you can use it the same way that Western astrology works by noticing calculations and stories outside of yourself, or you can come into the transformation. I see this as part of the counterclockwise entrapment. I have a video listed on the counterclockwise reading of a chart. You're welcome to check that out, because I don't want karmic stories to keep you stuck in the process. It's up to you. But if you feel like you have reached the end of your healing and this behavior hasn't eradicated at the level of your mind yet, then let's read your chart and see how we can address this in another session. If you're ready for a sidereal reading, go check out How I Read Your Chart as your next session. Peace.